All right. Hey, Masters, welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery podcast. And today we're coming to you on Veterans Day. So happy, I don't know if happy Veterans Day is the right terminology, but I just want to say, thank our veterans for all the sacrifice and all the service. And we want to make sure we honor our veterans. Every time I see, I know, Kelly, whenever I see somebody in uniform, I always say thank you for your service. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. I was in the Marine Corps myself, back in 1970 to 73. A little different back then. People were actually spitting at us, throwing stuff at us,
Holy cow.
because of all the stuff that was going on in Vietnam. But today, it's so nice and refreshing when somebody hears you were in the Corps or in the service, and they say, thank you for your service. And I see people not only any uniform, whether it's somebody in military service or first responders, or especially our police department. You know,
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative of the job they do. It's dangerous, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have the country we have. So,
Amen. Yeah, amen to that, man. Thank you for your service, by the way, Dan. Thank
thank
you
you.
for being a Marine, and you'll always be a Marine. So,
Yep.
I love that. All right. Well, today we're going to talk with Kelly Shaw about the greatest sale ever made. I'm excited to have this conversation. We're going to have a conversation around sales, how to be more effective in sales. And Kelly's been doing this, man. You're one of a few people I've had on the show that's been doing it longer than me, Kelly. I'm going 36 years. You're going 40 years in the
Well,
sales space.
actually, David, my wife and my wife corrected me the other night. We were having a couple glasses of wine, might have been a couple bottles of wine. I'm not really sure at this point.
Oh,
She
nice.
goes, "Babe, you've been in this 49 years. In four
Wow.
months, it'll be 50." And I went,
Okay.
"Oh, I might need to update my resume a little bit." Yeah,
All
50
right.
years, dude. Yeah, kind of
Wow.
crazy.
Congratulations. Well, yeah, your resume is 10 years old then, so it's all good, man. Well, listen, I'm happy to have you here. I love when I can learn some nuggets and some stuff. I think I've been doing it, like I said, a long time, and so I feel like sometimes. Um, anyway, I always try to be open minded, right? So I love when someone's been doing it longer than me. Because I'll tell you, some of these kids nowadays, man, they've been doing it for a couple of years, and they think that they're further along than you are, and I love it. Nothing against the kids or the Gen Xers, but man, the texting, like that's their idea of sales is shooting a text off, and if the person responds, great. If they don't, then hey, I guess it wasn't meant to be. And
Right.
I'm not kidding. Anyway, let me go back on track here. So over 40 years in the trenches, Kelly's passion for the craft burns hotter than ever as the author of the best-selling The Greatest Sale Ever Made and the previous chart-topping retirement. What is that chart-topping? What's a chart? I'm not reading. Maybe I'm not reading that right. Um,
Yeah, but it was a book I wrote in 2015 called Retirement: The Final Frontier. It was a knockoff on Star
oh, got
Trek,
it, got it. That fun.
and very fun. But it was about heading into that final frontier as a near retiree, getting ready to retire, and you're kind of going into the great unknown, just kind of like the Starship Enterprise did, way back when, and it was very well received, bestseller on Amazon back then, and that was a very interesting experience because it took me months to write that book, cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to get it edited, published, book design, cover. I mean, it was a $15,000 process, and took a huge amount of time. Which, when you're doing that, you're either taking time away from your family, or time away from your work, or time away
Mm,
from just freaking relaxing. And it was a relative arduous experience. Thank goodness for AI, because this last book I put together in just a couple of weeks. I had AI edit it and clean up some stuff. It made some suggestions to clear some stuff up.
yeah,
Some of which I did not use, but some of it was like really good stuff. And I went, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And
it's
so,
amazing. Amazing what you
yeah,
can do with AI right now. Let's jump. Let's get back. Let's get to the sales. I want to talk to you about some sales today. So you've been doing 49 years. Tell us, what are some of the things where did you start? As a matter of fact, tell us where you started. Like what was your first sales job?
all right. Well, I came out of the Corps and I went to work for my stepfather, because in the Corps, when you come out, about the only skill you have is you can blow somebody's head off from 500 yards with a really good rifle, right? And they'd never know it. But it doesn't really sound too good and look too good on a resume. So I went to work in construction, and I don't know what made me think I would be good at sales. But I wanted to be in sales. So in those days, you had to actually do a resume, print it out, and actually go door to door and drop it off. Well, after 2 months, nobody ever called me. I finally get a call one day from a lady, and I think, oh my, I think I'm going to actually get a job. So I went and interviewed, and she told me I was the worst interview she ever had, that I was possibly the worst salesperson or potential salesperson, that I couldn't and shouldn't and should never be anywhere around sales. And she ripped me from head to toe,
Wow.
everything that was wrong with me. And I felt like she put me at the end of a gangplank and just kicked me my ass off into the ocean, right? But she threw me a life preserver, and she wrote on a piece of paper. She goes, I don't know why you think you're in sales, but there's something about you that says maybe, just maybe, you can do it. So here's what I'll do. Take this course, and when you graduate, come back and see me. I won't hire you because you don't wear the clothes that I sell. But I have a friend who will hire you, and I'll put in a good word and make sure you get the job. But you got to complete this course. So that course was the Dale Carnegie course, the sales training course. This is like
Wow.
1970. The course was actually 74, so it was 50 years ago. But it took me, I think, 18 weeks, 12 weeks to get through it. And at that time, David, you also had to take with the sales course a public speaking course.
I
Like the
remember
last,
that course.
I'd rather
Effective communication. Is
yeah,
that remember that? That's the name of it,
yeah,
right? I took that course a long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it changed my life. But at the time, it was like, I don't know, should I just go back in the Marine Corps and go back to Vietnam? Because I don't want to talk to people and get in front of people. There was nothing about that whole thing that made any sense to anybody, not even
So
me.
so why did the lady say that you shouldn't be selling anything and you were horrible, the worst salesperson? Like what caused that?
I, I,
Why
I
was
didn't look, I didn't look her in the eye. My fingernails looked like hell, of course, because I was in construction. My hands were really rough. Um, uh, she said I didn't have any confidence. I mean, there was just a myriad of things, dude. I mean, I talk about like cutting your legs out from under you and making you feel so small and worthless. But it kind of lit a fire under me. And so when I went through that course, I made sure I was the top of the class. And when I came out of there, I actually went to her, and she did get me a job at a shoe store. And I had a great mentor. The guy who hired me, phenomenal mentor. He taught me how to make the clients have fun and get them to relax. And he goes, if they're in a positive state of mind, they're going to buy more stuff. You make them laugh, they're going to listen to you. So there were just these little things that I had really great mentors through my life. And then, of course, when when cassette tapes came around, I was able to then study, like great people like Dr. Tony Alessandro, Wayne Dyer, Tommy Hopkins. There's
mm,
some of the great people. But what I did was I started not only studying Dale Carnegie stuff, but I started studying some of the other mentors that he had. And a lot of people don't know that the old sales trainers never talked about technique, right? They talked about serving first, doing the right thing for the client, asking the right questions, digging a little deeper. And most people don't know they were all like pretty hardcore Christians, but they wanted to bring kingdom Christian type values and give it to the world of sales without saying, hey, these are kingdom principles. So I get it. And I've been selling that way. I mean, since day one, asking questions, making sure I'm doing the right thing for the client, making clients laugh, making them comfortable. And over the years, I've studied things like DISC to learn how to either speed my personality up or slow it down and focus on the task or focus on the future with people. And so I just continue to learn. I know you and I were in, I think, Grant Cardone's first master mentorship class
I
together,
didn't
I
know
believe.
that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and then you and I were also, I believe, with my wife, Jay Lynn, were also at the Great American Speak Off the first season. Am I right?
Oh, wow. I definitely I don't know if I did the first season. I think I did the second season. I made it to like the 40 and then that was it. I thought I was gonna
Yeah,
go all the way, but
yeah.
yeah, it was awesome experience. But no, I did not realize we had that in common. But
Well,
that was
one
a
thing
great
is,
experience, huh?
I never forget a face. Names, not so much, but
Yeah.
never, ever, ever forget a face. When I saw you pop up on the podcast list, I went, "Oh, I know David, man. That's cool."
Yeah.
Because you live in New York, right?
I live in Boston, so
Boston. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the
I knew it
opposite
was
of New
somewhere up
York.
there. Yeah, quite.
But we are on the East Coast still. So listen, talk to us about the greatest salesman though. The greatest sale ever made.
Ever made.
What is that? What is it?
Well, first off, here's the book,
The
Amazon
book.
bestseller.
Awesome.
Came out like couple months ago. Immediately in one weekend, became bestseller in 3 categories. But it's
Congratulations.
really, thank you. It's really about making that first sale, the most important sale, and that's the sale to yourself. Not only about your product or your service, but about you as the salesperson and
Mm,
the company that you represent. Because if you haven't made that sale to yourself, if you don't 100% aren't 100% convinced, when the sale starts to go sideways, you're going to start faltering. And the one thing I learned
mm,
in the Marine Corps is you got to PDR, practice, drill, and rehearse till things become like incredibly natural. And you don't have to think. Because if you have to think in combat, kind of like if you talk to a Formula One driver, they don't look in front of the car. They look a half a mile down the track. And when you're doing almost 200 miles an hour, sometimes in the straightaways over 220, 240, you don't have time to think. You
mm,
better react. And that's the same thing not only in combat, but it's the same thing in sales. So you've got to internalize, and I love the word scripts because I believe in scripts. I've had scripts my whole life. And every salesperson, everybody who's in business has a script. Here's the problem, David. Their scripts may only be worth $50 to $100,000 a year. There are people like Grant Cardone, right? And a few of the salespeople that work for him, their scripts, well, in Grant's case, probably worth about 100 million a year. But some top salespeople, I have friends that make over $100,000 a month in, month out, because they have a damn good script. You don't know it's a script because it's them talking, right? And I'll tell you a little story. When I first got into financial services, I came out of, I used to go in and turn businesses around. So they were typically mid-sized retail firms. They're really good at it. Like blow up their sales. I went to a Bayliner store in I think 91, took it from going bankrupt to number one in the world in 12 months because I knew exactly what boats were all about. Friends, family, and fun. That's it. I didn't know a damn thing about a boat except the pointy end goes forward. And but I got my salespeople so convinced that owning a boat and taking people out and having those memories was so important that we sold boats at that time Bayliner was owned by AMF, the company that does the bowling alley stuff, and they owned a couple other boat manufacturers. They were blown away. But I told them, it's all about that greatest sale.
mm.
I was starting with a story, and of course I forgot midstream because
It's all right.
rabbit,
I do
rabbit.
want to I do want to go back to though what you said because I think it's so important is getting sold on yourself. I feel like it's not something that we talk about enough as salespeople, sales trainers. Most because a lot you're right. I think the average salesperson is they're not even 100% clear on like why their product is the best, or maybe they are clear but they're just not 100% sold on it, right? Like you got to show like people like Kelly, people sense like it's to me that's confidence.
Right.
It's a level of confidence.
Yeah. If you've made that sale to yourself, if you really know that you've got a great product that can serve that person, right? And you know that you're working with the right company and that not only when you close them, you get a check because they can't benefit from your product until they buy, then it's not just the sale, it's making sure they're using it properly, and it's the care and the attentiveness after the sale.
Mm,
I've got clients that I've had for going on 30 years now in the financial services world. They're a lot of them are in their late 80s, early 90s. They've been with me for 30 years. They continue to buy from me. And the only way you can do that is if you give them unbelievable care after the sale. But one thing I learned many years ago, if I was when I got into kind of a higher end sales, it's like number one, you as a person, there's a book came out many years ago called Good to Great. Good sucks, great is only that much different, right? So why not be great? Who wants to be a good husband when you could be a great husband? Who wants to be a good father, mediocre, average, oh freaking K? But why not be a great father, right?
Mm,
And so make that commitment to know your product better than anybody else knows your product. That's part of it. The other thing I learned many, many years ago is know your competitor's product better than the salespeople that are selling their product. Never badmouth them. Oh, when I know somebody's shopping me, I always want to find out where they're shopping, who they're going, where they're going to go, what are they considering, what are the things are they looking at, and I'm going to say, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that, man. That's a nice little product. That's really nice. They're a really good company. They do okay by their clients, and I start using word tracks like okay. They're pretty good. And I'll tell them, here's 5 or 6 things that you're going to like. Here's a couple things they may not even tell you that are actually good about their product. But then I say, but once you look at them, I think you realize that these features from my product are a bit superior to those. And I think, let me share with you how they could benefit you and what it's going to mean to you and your family, right? So it's that whole thing about mastery, right? I learned that from Tony Robbins. If you're going to do it, master it, get it down, be great. Don't be good, don't be half-ass. Go all in. And I don't think salespeople, entrepreneurs, go all in all the time. There's that old saying, burn the bridges or burn the boats. I mean, that
yeah.
really happens. That really happened to that Spanish explorer. He basically burned the boats and said, hey guys, we either win or we die.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Cortez, is that who it was? Yeah,
Yeah, I think it
Cortez.
was Cortez. Yeah.
So let me ask you this though, because how do so I'm getting now the premise of your book is the greatest sale ever made is well, that's just it is sold on yourself. Is that accurate?
It's yourself, but also what you bring to the client, and that you're the right person, you're the right company, and to
Got
get
it.
in your mind that if you don't, so my book is really based around 3 stories. What you bring to the client, and that you're the right person,
Oh,
you're
sorry about
anyway.
that.
Yeah,
Did you hear that?
yeah.
Oh,
So
good. So I was actually
yeah,
just checking it on because we're live on X. So,
yeah.
finish that, and then what I want you to do is I want you to tell somebody for our listeners now, how does somebody? How does somebody get sold on themselves? Like what are
Okay.
like let's say the 3 top things to help our listeners get more sold on themselves.
Well, first off, we got to realize that most people out there, and I would probably dare say most companies are number one concerned with one thing and one thing only: making a sale. And when you sell yourself, you want to do the right thing, you realize that it's not about necessarily making the sale. It's about connecting with the client, finding out where their pain points are, making
Mm,
sure that you can handle those pain points. And the thing is, they might go down the road. If you don't do your job right, you're not sold on yourself, and you don't have that confidence to actually push a little harder for that sale. They may go down the road and buy an inferior product from an inferior salesperson who works for an inferior company, and they may get worse results, and they'll be worse off than they are right now. Case in point,
jeez.
I had a client come to me many years ago. She was just retiring from Ma Bell, and she had all these what are called baby bells. This is when Bell had to like divest, and all these other companies, Sprint, AT&T, came into existence. So she came to me with $1.2 million, right? Little old lady. I put on a good show. I gave her all the features, what I could do, how I could do it, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't want to be pushy. She's 65, little old lady. I was like 40 and maybe 45. And I was, still a young whippersnapper, only been in the business about 10 or 15 years at that time. And she left. I didn't really do a lot of follow up. She ended up buying from somebody else. She came back 5 years later and said, "Hey Kelly, I'm like losing money hand over fist. I'm down to $500,000. Can you help me get my money back?" I went, "Oh wow, no, I can't help you get it back. Honestly, I mean, I could try, but what I can do is stop the bleeding and maybe have some slow growth and give you some really good income from it." Again, put on a good show. Didn't close her. Came back 5 years later. Now this is 2010. And she came to me to ask for an attorney reference because she had lost all her money.
Wow.
She was broke, living only on Social Security, and had to do a reverse mortgage on her home so she could just live. Now, a lot of people would say, yeah, that other salesperson sold her a bag of blah, blah, blah. And, and it's like, hey, it wasn't that salesperson's fault. He may have been an idiot, but, I don't know that he did anything wrong. The guy who did something wrong was me. See, I didn't have that sale made to myself that I couldn't let her go down the road. I owed it to her to close that deal because I knew I could save her money and give her a great lifetime of income and still have that money available when she passed away to go to her heirs. And that's when you know that when you're the right person, because not every person out there, they may be decent,
Mm.
but they're not going to be there when that client needs them. And if you know you're going to be there and you've got a great product and you know it'll solve a very specific problem for a client, then damn it, you owe it to them to close them and get the check and then make sure they can
So,
use the product properly.
so let me. So what happened the first couple times? Like, so you this took you 10 years to close the deal, which I'm a follow up guy, so I don't have a problem with that. But
Yeah.
what was it? What was different? And for our listeners, I think this is a great question. Like, what was different the first time you met with her where you didn't close? Then you met with her a second time, right? You said you didn't close, and now the third time you actually closed. What was the difference?
I think part of the problem at that time with me was believe me, I was sold on. I own all my own products, right? I was selling a lot of annuities and some, index universal life, and I had all that. I had a term policy. I had anything I could possibly sell. I owned, but I was, I guess, I was afraid to be too pushy with her until she came back the second time, or actually the first time. So the second meeting with her when she lost over 700,000, and I realized that, man, I owe it to people to close them because they are going to go down the road and they may get a good product, but they may not know how to use it properly. They're probably going to get it from a company that doesn't have good customer service. And so it just made me, so this is like 2005. It really made me ratchet my company up where we're always working for the client's best interest. And sometimes we have to tell people, I'm not your guy, but I
Mm.
do know who somebody is, and I can send you down there. And I did that many times. One time, I had a client come in with a lot of money, and I just said, dude, I'm not that guy. You need somebody who's a lot more aggressive than me. You need somebody, that you can interact with because I just don't do
Yeah,
business
but
that way.
before we jump to the next one, I want to go back to that other point though. So what I took was that is that you didn't want to seem pushy, so
Correct.
you didn't close, and we don't have to, Kelly. Like we don't have to be pushy to help
Correct.
someone make a decision, right? Like it shouldn't. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't feel pushy.
Right. Well, and I had to learn some new techniques, right? I mean, so I'm still growing. I still buy half a dozen sales books a year. I just attended a 5-day sales course for a competitor of mine because, to be quite frank, he's got some really good stuff. So I'm always trying to keep myself fresh. It's kind of like sharpening your tools. And
Mm.
sometimes you realize your tools are a little outdated. Maybe I need to get this electric tool that I can take with me without a cord so I can actually climb the ladder and I don't have to have a 300-foot extension cord. And that's what I did. I started to learn to get people more emotionally involved, not just in the happy part, but being able to paint the picture that if they don't do something and if they don't do it right, then what are the consequences down the road? And then I learned the magic word, why. So this is 2005. And I learned to dig a lot deeper. Now, before that, I was killing it, man. I was making way high mid six figures. Never made a million a year, but I was not a two or $300,000 a year guy. I was making really good money, but I wasn't always in tune with everything my client was looking for. So I learned some techniques, which I'd actually known for a long time, but I didn't need to incorporate them because I was just on a roll. And probably where it was at the point where I thought I kind of knew everything. Because when you're making that kind of money, you kind of you get this air about you, right? Really good at sales, but that story of Doris, which is in my book, just really burned it into my heart that I need to be able to get them to a point where I've got my clients frothing at the mouth, which is one of my stories. David, we've all heard this analogy. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So only an idiot takes a horse to a watering hole, tries to make it drink. A good trainer will get on the back of the horse, ride it around the track till it's frothing at the mouth, right? A little bit of spittle right there in the corner. They're thirsty as hell. You can't hold the horse back. That's a 2,000-pound horse. He's going to drag your ass to the watering hole. That's what we as salespeople have to do. We have to get our clients frothing at the mouth. And we've got to get them so excited about the product. We know they're going to buy it. Now we just got to make it easy for them to buy it from us, so that we can recoup the money. You know you're really doing your job when somebody buys something from you and they look you in the eye and they say, Kelly, are you making enough money? Like, I feel like you're doing such a great thing for us. I just want to make sure you're making good money. And in my mind, I'm going, oh, you have no idea how much money I'm making, but thank you for asking, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's good stuff.
All that is tied together, man. When you believe in something that much, I was telling you a story. I was started to. So I was talking about scripts. When I first got in the financial services business, I got like literally 15 minutes of training. A guy said, hey, I don't want you to be my seminar speaker. I want you to be my salesperson. I go, okay, cool. He goes, I want you to sell annuities. You think you can do that? I go, oh, yeah, I can do that. What's an annuity, dude? I have no idea what an annuity was. But he hired me, and I went on the road with him for a week. And at that time, I was really into recording my conversations, recording myself practicing, listening to myself. I think I had a camcorder, if you remember what those damn big things were, and I'd record myself giving my presentations, because I took some acting courses when I was younger for sales. And my wife walks by my office one day, and she says, when I was done practicing, she goes, Kelly, when did you start stuttering? I go, I don't stutter. What the hell are you talking about? She goes, you were just stuttering. I go, I was not stuttering. She goes, yeah, you were. I go, no, I wasn't. You just recorded it, right? I go, yeah. She goes, watch the recording. So I plugged the recorder in. I'm watching the playback, and I went, oh, that's where Paul, my mentor at that time, that's where he stutters every time in his presentation. And he was a monster closer. Had no follow-up, but monster closer. And I had internalized his script so deep.
That's funny.
Because I had it recorded that I actually stuttered this. When I was going through all the Grant Cardone stuff, my wife said, you're starting to sound like Grant, man. Like, that's kind of weird. But realistically, because if you're going to master something, then look, you got to pick the right master, number one. Number two, success leaves crumbs, and so does failure. And too doggone many people pick up the crumbs of failure and not the crumbs of success. And so when I find something that works for somebody, it may not be me. It's like English wasn't my language when I was born. I didn't have a freaking language. I had to learn English. People from Boston talk a little bit different from us in California. You learn that script, that Boston script, or from Minnesota, or from Texas, Oklahoma. So we all get to develop scripts. Again, some are 50,000, some are 100,000 a year, some are 100,000 a month. But the difference is you internalizing them, practice them, drilling them, to your spouse or partner can wake you up in the middle of the night, throw something at you, and you can answer the question, roll over and go back to sleep. That's how good you have to become. And most people are not willing to do the work on just a few little things to take them from good to great.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What, oh God, I completely forgot what I was going to ask you now. That's kind of funny. I had something and now it's gone. Anyway, maybe not important. Talk to me about, your AI strategy, obviously going into 2025. You and I have both been doing sales a long time, but things are changing now, right? So I'm just curious to know, how are you using AI in your sales process?
So I got really infatuated with AI about a month after OpenAI Chat came out, right? And started experimenting with it and started studying it. My wife and I flew to Salt Lake City to take a 3-day master class on it. And then we went to a couple of mastermind classes in Puerto Rico. So at first, it just started off, like playing with chat. Like my wife would go, hey, chat, you're a best-selling author of cookbooks and recipes. You've been featured on national podcast, TV shows, and you cook in the style of, and she might say Julia Childs, or she would bring up, please design me a meal plan for the week that's really tasty. You can throw it together in a short period of time, and it's low in carbohydrates and doesn't have this and this and this, but has plenty of high fat, good quality proteins, let's say. It spit out like a 7-day meal plan. So we said, let's try it. Oh my God, they were so good. Like, so my wife goes, hey, not too long ago, she goes, hey, chat, give me a low sugar dessert that's got a lot of chocolate, dark chocolate, not, light chocolate. And she got these recipes and then these keto bites that are like, they take like 5 minutes to make, maybe 10 minutes. I don't know. I mean, I don't make them. She does. I'm assuming it's like 10 minutes. And she puts them in the refrigerator and they are awesome. So then I said, well, okay, I'm writing this book and I'm kind of all over the place because when I write, I speak to Word and then I got to go back and sometimes Word understands what I'm saying. Sometimes it doesn't. I find chat does a better job of that.
When you say chat, you're referring to Chat GPT, correct?
Chat GPT. I also use Claude and another one. Okay, and then we've used some, some photo and some art design and video. So we've actually done a few videos where they record us for about 5 minutes, and then you can write a script, send it to it, and it'll do a full like up to 5 minute recording of you. You can't even tell it's not you, but it's not you.
It's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah. So we started getting at that, but then what I started using it for was, I'm a pretty decent speechwriter. I come up with some pretty decent stuff, but it can be cleaned up, and I don't always write it in the tone I want. So when I'm doing a speech, I'll say, like, especially for my wife, like my wife made it to the top 30 of the Grant Cardone Speak Off, right? And I just said, hey, give me a tone in this speech that is blank, blank. And so I gave it a really long prompt. The prompt was longer than the doggone speech, but the better the quality of the input, the better the quality of the output. Yeah. Here's what I will tell your audience, David. If you're a little long in the tooth like me, this is the absolute first technology that's ever come down the road that is geared and designed for older people. Because if you've got experience, you've got knowledge, you've got a bunch of stuff up here, if you can give the prompts correctly, it'll spit out the most incredible stuff. So after working on my book for over about 3 weeks, because I was in a mastermind and they challenged me to do this book in less than 30 days. So I got it done. I got it kind of mishmashed around, and they said, well, just put it into a PDF, throw it into Chat GPT, have Chat clean it up, have Chat suggest chapter titles, and then have them edit it. So I did. 5 minutes later, it was done.
That's
literally
wild.
5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Then I went to Fiverr, and I hired somebody who's done a lot of books and cleanup and stuff. And she had very, very few things she found wrong, said it was fine. So that saved me almost a month of editing and a huge cost. Even if you had an editor at Fiverr, it's probably going to cost you $500 to $1,000 by the time you get a really good one to do the work right. But got it all done for what do I pay? $20 a month for the pro version. Yeah.
Wow.
We use it also for it's wonderful for creating scripts for Facebook and for content. Like if you're a business owner, you're a salesperson, there's no reason you couldn't post something every day. My wife has an app on her phone called Big View, and you can take your script. It'll put it right on your iPhone or Android, and you can be looking at the camera.
Oh yeah.
And reading the script, and nobody knows. But I'll tell Chat, I said, here, design me a Facebook ad that I can also put on Instagram. Make it 30 seconds long, make it about this, make it fun, and make it kind of smart alecky with a call to action where
A really
if
good idea.
they don't do it, they're going to sound like a moron for not signing up or not attending the course, right? And it spits out, well, so we travel 6 months of the year, my wife and I. So we spend a lot of time in Spain. Right now, where I'm on a cruise ship in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean, and we're heading 2-week cruise, and we're heading to Spain and England and France and Belgium we're in Italy for 8 weeks. So this year we were in Madrid, and we're at this place called the Cooking Clubhouse. It's a really cool, it's like they teach you how to cook, and you're at stations and you're drinking cava and wine and beer, and you're making all these tapas. And so we've been there like 6 times. And so while our guide was up getting a thing, I asked him about social media and stuff like that. And so I talked into chat and I said, hey, chat, give me 3 videos, a short one, 30-second, maybe a 45-second to a minute video, and then a long form video that you could do something like for the website. By the time he came down with a new bottle of wine, I showed him what I did. He showed it to the owner. The owner called his social media company, and they said, who is this guy? These are 3 of the best scripts I've ever seen in my whole life. We got to use these. They gave us a free lifetime membership. Wow. Free. It's $100 a person per meal. We don't have to pay for it. Why? Chat in 30 seconds spit out 3 of the most incredible ads, and they used them in their business.
Absolutely amazing what you can do with ChatGPT. We have so many ways we use it as well. But listen, I want to let our listeners know the best way to get a copy of your book as well as get in touch with you.
Well, they can get a copy of my book. Hopefully my assistant sent you a link to that. If not, I can do it when we're done, David. Yeah. But if they just follow that link, give us their first name and their email, we will then send them a downloadable PDF version of the book at no charge. Now, cool. Here's the other part. I'm working on the second book in this series, which is actually going to be combined with this book. So it's going to be The Greatest Sale Ever Made 2.0, and it's going to have a lot more closing techniques, how to use body language, tonality, pacing, facial expressions, how to ask deeper, more important questions, like the question why. Like, why are you doing this now? Why didn't this work for you before? Why do you think it's a good time? Why do you think it'll work for you this time? So they're actually selling you and you're not selling them. And so when that book comes out, which will be in December, hopefully also a #1 Amazon bestseller, they're going to get a free copy of that as well. And they'll be on the list, and we'll send them an email saying, okay, you can download this version now. Just go to the website. They can always reach me at kelly@kingdomsalesacademy.com. And I'll make sure that my assistants, who are not working today because it is Veterans Day, and of course they are in the Philippines, and we have a lot of military over in the Philippines, so they're taking the day off. So yeah, and if anybody ever wants to, just spend a couple minutes chat with me, they can go to my kingdomsalesacademy.com website. There's a link to my calendar. They can schedule a 15-minute call. So again, I'm here to serve, right? A friend of mine a couple of years ago told me I was being really selfish, but #1 by not sharing my talents with the rest of the world and keeping it to myself, and that there's so many people that can benefit from what I have to say. And I owe it to the public to get the word out there. So I just love talking sales. I love talking music. But I love talking sales. And, if I can help somebody go from, let me just put it this way. I learned all this stuff over many years of always having an open mind, because when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot, right? And I just want to give back because so many people have helped me in my career. And I was very fortunate that I had really good mentors. Whereas when my kids were growing up, I walked them to school every day. I picked them up most days from school. I spent every weekends with my kids. I didn't miss a soccer practice. I didn't miss a dance recital. And believe me, some of those dance recitals were brutal. I had 3 kids that were very athletic. One that wasn't so bad, but I didn't miss any of their big moments in their life. And too many entrepreneurs, too many salespeople haven't fine-tuned their skills. They're working harder and harder and harder, and they're staying away from their family because nobody on their freaking deathbed has ever said, bring me my trophies so I can hold them. Bring me my cash so I can hold it. They all say, God, I wish I would have been a better father, a better husband. I wish I would have spent more time with my kids. I wish I could have seen all their things that they did that I missed because I was working too damn hard, because I wasn't motivated enough, wasn't sold on myself to commit the time to get better at my craft, to master it and be the best. So what they do is they slave. They help other
Yeah.
people make their dreams come true, and they don't make theirs come true.
Amen, brother. Well, listen, I appreciate you. Thanks for being on. And yeah, send me that link. I will make sure I get it in the notes so everybody can go down below and get a copy of Kelly's book, The Greatest Sale Ever Made. And appreciate you, Kelly Schott, for joining us today. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it.